Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of
Itty Bit Pod Smash,
Where Gaming Goes to Grab a Beer.
We're your hosts, Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right, and tonight we are picking up where we left off a long time ago, feels like. We haven't done one of these in a while. We are picking up where we left off in our going through the list of best video games of all time, according to Wikipedia's surprisingly well-compiled list. And it was way longer to get through than we thought, so we are now 8 episodes into it. It has provided endless content for us, but we're picking up at 2009. We'll get as far as we can into the 2010s, and hopefully there will only be one more after this, because the list gets much, much shorter as we weed into the 2010s, as those the games that have come out in the last decade have not quite proliferated into other lists, which is where Wikipedia draws their sources. So there are a few notable ones from the last few years. So it'll be good.
All right.
Anyways, but we will get into all of that and more, but we are first where gaming goes to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight? You were super excited to tell me about it, so why don't you start?
I am drinking a mix, and this came together from a neighbor in this neighborhood that I live in, where he decided to tell me about it, and he gave me the ingredients, which is awesome. So this comes compliments of my neighbor Mike, and it is called a snake bite. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Okay, that's like maybe, a drink, I guess. It's called a snake bite, and what it is Guinness Extra Stout. That's one beer, and cider, hard cider, mixed together. And
interesting.
The bold roastiness from the stout that you get, specifically Guinness, which has everything I hate about a porter, is not present in a Guinness. So if you want like a distinction between a porter and a stout, go drink Guinness, and that is the qualities of a stout. At least that's the intro. There are way more, infinitely more stouts out there that are more complex and more higher quality than Guinness. But Guinness is good. So Guinness Extra Stout and cider. And the cider, of course, is the premium dry cider from Bold Rock. So there's a lot of different flavors of cider. This one is like the non-fruity one. So this is almost like wine in its taste, but obviously apple. So mixed together, wow! You have the sweetness and the sharp tartness of the cider that cuts into the bold roastiness of the Guinness and creates an explosion of fantastic flavor. It's the first time I've ever had one right now on the show, and this is really good. And yeah, can't wait for like colder weather now, just to be able to sit and enjoy these, because this is a perfect like fall drink.
Yeah, I've never had that before. Never heard of it. I would have thought that the tart apple would not go well with the stout, but
yeah, this is awesome. We'll
give it a try.
This is really good. Yeah.
I've got a simple one. I am drinking a Victory Sour Monkey. I just happened to be at Food Lion, so I was like, well, I'll just grab beer while I'm here. So I got a good old Sour Monkey. I feel like the monkeys are like, if you've got someone who's just getting into beer, like a young person, just turned 21, preferably, and they're just getting into beer, and you're like, hey, they're like, where can I get good beer that is affordable and available, right? Just anywhere.
That's
like
not
the monkey
like Bud
line.
Light.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like the monkey line's a good intro because it's strong. It'll get them drunk, which is what they want, and it tastes good, right? It's good tasting beer. So kudos to Victory for always being a staple, staple. Yeah.
And there's a Merry Monkey around Christmas that I am always looking for. That I will buy for you. The second I see it, I wanted to buy it for you. And that was before last year, before I moved, and even this year, I still was like scouting for it and never found it. But eventually, you will have
bring it up, or you bring it up every time.
Yeah,
one of us has
cool.
a monkey.
It sounds fun. It's like a gingerbread monkey.
Gingerbread, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be good with the base golden monkey, but as I drink the sour monkey, I'm like, oh, that would taste terrible with it. But no, that's not the base that we're going off of here. So
exactly.
Cool. All right. We got through that, so let's talk about anything you want to talk about. Banter, beer and banter. That's what I like.
What a time to be alive in video games. 2022, man, has just... we got 3 really big heavy hitters, if not more, depending on your tastes. We probably have like 6 right now that are out there. Of course, you have 3. I was thinking of the 3 that you just platinumed. So congratulations on your 3 big platinums for the month of March.
I did. And if you're wondering, I platinumed Wonderlands, but this is 2 weeks later, so I played in Wonderlands 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right. But there's other titles like Ghostwire Tokyo and Sifu and Kirby. Those are the other titles that like the other 3 that we don't have or not currently. And I have Gran Turismo 7, so that's 7 games. It's
don't
just
forget the ever popular but bafflingly popular Final Fantasy Origin Stranger of Paradise.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's an 8th.
It reviewed just about as well as Ghostwire Tokyo, but like people are fascinated with how just absurd it is. People are like, I don't know why I like this, but I like it. So I kind of want to grab it on sale at some point and play my way through it. But yeah, sorry, you were saying, what a year to be alive.
Yeah, and then like on top of just the video games itself, we're seeing like we had huge acquisitions this year with Bungie going to Sony, and obviously the big one, Activision Blizzard going to Microsoft, and like the drama around all of this, and just insane. And now Sony comes out with this new like tiered PlayStation Plus subscription, turning its PS Plus and PS Now offerings on its head and like revamping the whole thing. And now there's all this conversation about Microsoft Game Pass versus Sony. Are they really competing? And there's all this nuance. And we could have like an entire episode just about that and its implications, which I don't want to get into too much detail here, but just in general, like as a gamer, just wow, there's so much going on already. And it's only March, folks. Like
it is, it's busy, but I feel like everyone's shooting their wads so early. You're right. Yeah, it's April.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be very active in the back half of the year. I could be wrong.
You are correct.
I'm staring down the barrel. I'm staring down the barrel of like we've had pretty much all the big games that we were expecting to come out after the big 25th, right? Like Project Athia, Forspoken, whatever it's called, that got delayed to October, and so that one I'm still looking forward to that one. But like besides that, I'm like, what else is coming out this year? Because Zelda got delayed. God of War is undoubtedly going to get delayed. Starfield, I just have written off because it's not coming to PlayStation. So, and I don't. I don't historically love Bethesda RPGs, so I'm kind of just gonna wait to see on that one. So I know it's highly anticipated, so I'm not going to say it's.
Ooh, I wonder if you could get a Game Pass 1 month subscription bonus thing again, and like jump into Starfield and just mess around with it on your PC.
If it's good enough, I would do it for a month or whatever, right? Like I'd buy it for a month. Heck, I might buy it outright and play it on my PC if it's good enough.
Yeah.
But that's again. For me, it's untested. So for me, it's like kind of like Elden Ring was for you, where I'm like, I totally recognize that people are excited about it. I'm keeping an eye on it and hoping that it's good enough to want to get into. But I myself am just like, take it or leave it. It'll all depend on how it reviews. If it gets 10s out of 10s like Elden Ring did, then you bet I'll probably get a hold of it. But for now, I'm just like, I'm gonna wait and see. But it's not like in the forefront of my mind. So therefore, but it's there. You're right. It's there. Other than those 2 games, though, I like everything else is like gotten delayed or is anticipated to be delayed. Like God of War is probably not coming out this year at this point. So So yeah, I don't really see much else to look forward to. And we've had lots of discussions about this offline. And we don't have to get into it right now, but I'm kind of underwhelmed by the PlayStation Plus thing. Like I know that it's got a big library of games, but right now a library of games doesn't attract me that much because I don't have enough time for the games I have.
I'm already backlogged and like boom.
Yeah, I'm already backlogged. And PS Plus, granted, I know its monthly offerings are kind of controversially hit or miss, but there's still plenty of those from that library that I want to catch up on, right? Like I still got a lot of those. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard really good things about Deep Rock Galactic, for example. I would totally fire that up, which to me is the same as having a massively huge library of games. Like what's the difference between that and a massive library of games? In both cases, there are too many of them for me to play and still keep up with new games. So to me, the more attractive thing is the Game Pass that Game Pass offers. New games day one, exclusives, like new game exclusives day one.
Which
so it's like
Jim Ryan's confirmed is not happening.
It's not happening on the PlayStation. Exactly. Or at least not for now. They might cave later, but for now it's, it'll all depend on their metrics. How many people are still buying their games day one or just waiting for them to come to the service. Because if it's like, the whole patient gamers mentality, if you're like, I pay for this service, I know that all of Sony's first party titles are eventually going to come to the service. I could just wait. And so if those numbers start eating their lunch, then maybe they will. We'll see. Anyways, I'm not as excited about it, but I also understand that it's a big deal, right? Because it will still, one way or another, it'll be the ultimate test of subscription gaming, right? If it takes off with PlayStation, if they start making a ton of money off of it, then this is now the norm, right? This is the turning point. Like Microsoft started it, and if PlayStation adopts it, then it's the turning point. It will become the new norm. You bet Steam will probably have a subscription service eventually. Epic Games Pass certainly will do will still some kind of subscription pass. to their libraries, huge libraries of games, probably like.
And EA already has one, EA Play.
Yep,
and
exactly.
Ubisoft, I
So-
think, already has one called like Ubisoft Connect or something that gives you access to a bunch of Ubisoft things.
I foresee those going the way of Netflix, right? Where sure they've had them for a while, but like once the big boys get in on the market, then they're going to get edged out. Like that's what's happening in Netflix. Thanks to Disney Plus, HBO Max, they've effectively edged Netflix out of the market, and like it's dying now. It's not dead yet, but it's I don't know how much longer Netflix is going to last as an entity. So I wonder if that's going to happen to EA. The comment that bugs me though, as we discussed, and this is going to be the last thing, and then we can move on, is Jim Ryan's whole like, we want to invest in games as a service. That's the real future.
Yes, that's exactly
I don't like that guy, dude. I don't like him.
I don't blame you. Yeah,
was more in touch.
Yep.
With
Sean Layden was awesome, and so was Andrew House is awesome. Mark Cerny's awesome, and Shuhei Yoshida is amazing.
Yeah,
all of those are the PlayStation people that were like out front and present around. Yeah, in touch with like when the PS3 and the Vita. I guess when they were on the ropes, when the PS3 was like losing to Microsoft for most of its life cycle, like Sony had the best people up front, like talking about Sony and like celebrating PlayStation and doing cool things and like making good decisions and turning things around. And then now that they're like the champion, Jim Ryan comes in. It's like they restructure, they lay off, they're refocusing on games as a service. I don't know how many games as a service games are in production, but Sony just recently announced there's like multiple studios working on games as a service titles, and I was like, ugh. It really does just cement Jim Ryan as a businessman. What he is saying makes 1,000% sense. 100, like I completely get it. Why Jim Ryan is saying the things. None of it's consumer friendly at all. It has absolutely zero to do with the gamer, and it's all about Sony's tactics, portfolio, and strategy for how to like make more money. That's he's like, oh, at least he's transparent about it. You know, he's not trying to hide it. You know what I mean? Like he's not trying to like come out and say, oh, we're trying to give gamers the best experience and place to play, and that's all he's
sometimes
saying.
You want them to be a little bit more opaque, because whenever he gets on the camera, like the disdain, the look on his face just looks like he just hates being there and is only there and is saying the words and hates the words that are coming out of his mouth. I think he hates gamers. I think he hates us, and the only reason he tolerates us is because we give money to his superiors and therefore him. Whatever. Now I it's like I tried to give the dude a chance, but he has just failed me, and I am concerned for Sony under his leadership and hope that they figure it out and put someone sensible in charge.
Yeah.
Before it's too late. But all right, well, Jim Ryan clearly is not my favorite thing, but
80-bit pod smashes our favorite thing.
80-bit pod smashes our favorite thing.
Favorite things.
Segment of our show where we share with you something that we are excited about or interested in or intrigued by or thought-provoked by, in order that you might be inspired to go find your next favorite thing. I can be quick. My favorite thing is something from my childhood that I splurged on. That I always think of this time of year. As we approach Easter, we would always go visit my grandparents, and my grandmother would almost every year have a little bowl of Starburst jelly beans on the table. And that's my favorite thing. Awesome. I got a bag of Starburst jelly beans, and it was like, oh. So really I didn't even share them with my kid. Screw that. He's too young to appreciate them. Yep. I want Starburst jelly beans. You might choke on them, exactly. Yeah. So
don't squish them first before you hand it to him. But
nope,
you can choke.
I'm just gonna eat them. I just ate them. Sorry, no, they're gone. They're all gone. I ate them.
You gotta do that sometimes.
Not even a day. Yep. So that's my favorite thing. Starburst jelly beans.
Nice.
It's both a nostalgic thing and delicious. Like they're objectively good jelly beans.
It's the jelly bean. There's like regular jelly beans are disgusting.
I kind of like some of the Jelly Belly. Like not all. Jelly Belly kind of goes overboard with ridiculous flavors.
Right. There's a very small subset of Jelly Belly that I would love, like a small bag of.
Like I would say like 30%. Yeah. Like 30%. Like the what? Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
But Starburst, you just get the whole bag.
Jelly Bellies, give me the good ones. Can I get the good ones? Literally, I want the package to say it's the good ones.
Yeah.
That's good.
My favorite thing is my wife and I got a long weekend away for her birthday, and we went to Nashville, Tennessee. And let me tell you what, I did not know what I was getting into, but I had one of the best trips of my life. Like it is up there on the charts. If I had to chart out my entire life and put a pinpoint on some highlights, like this trip was one of them, and absolutely incredible. We went to go see Reliant K. It's a punk rock band, came out of the like 90s Christian punk rock era times, but has definitely evolved since. And there was a lovely woman by the name of Semler who also opened and was joining them on tour. So my wife wanted to see both of them, and she booked tickets back in like January. And I was like, let's do it. This is going to be awesome. And outside of just the concert, though, downtown Nashville is a giant party at 10 a.m. I kid you not. There are school buses that have been modified. They've chopped the top off entirely and replaced it with white see-through plastic walls and ceilings, and bachelorette parties or any other group of people can rent them, but no one rented these things but bachelorette parties. And it's just girls dancing and drinking at 10 in the morning, and they go all day, and there's just bus after bus after bus. There's even a tractor that's pulling one, and then there's these pedal trolleys that are going around of everyone, and they rile the crowd in on the sidewalk. So like my wife and I just walk in between places, and like they're hooping and hollering and whee! And then everyone on the sidewalks like eggs them on, and then they just start getting it. And it's awesome. The whole place is just like Vegas. Like it's a giant party that just rages from 10 a.m. to 2 in the morning. And the appeal for me was that every single place you stop in has live music also all day long. And some of them are multiple stories that have different flavors of music. So it's not just country. Like you think Nashville is country music central or bluegrass central, and it is in its history and its culture and tradition. But now, like what the younger, I guess, ages change, generations change, like what the flavor is. But you walk by, there's a rock band playing, there's blues, there's jazz, there's country, there's bluegrass. But you walk into one place, you go in the basement, there's a bar with a band playing old fashioned like country music. You go in the middle floor and they're playing like more modern country music. And you go to the top floor and it's a cover band and they're playing stuff from like my generation, early aughts, that has nothing to do with country. And so I'm hearing like Jimmy Eat World and all these other awesome songs. So my wife and I just like pop in, grab some drinks, and we're shouting, we're hopping and dancing and just carrying on. Like we had a freaking blast. We partied up till like our ripe age of 30s, mid 30s, 11:30 or midnight was pretty much it for us. We didn't close any places down. Next level celebration. Like I got my fix from the last, I don't know how long it's been since we've seen live music, but I got it all fixed in like 3 days. Because it was just nonstop. Nice. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. We found a couple restaurants that were like featured on TV shows. Like Ugly Delicious is a Netflix show that featured a restaurant called Husk. So we got reservations and went there. And then we also went to another brunch place that she found called Biscuit Love. And those were more of our like dining experiences of the foodie kind of level of like getting really good food. And then the rest are just like greasy bar food and like drinks, lots and lots of drinks. And it was so much fun. So that's my favorite thing. Nashville, Tennessee. Huzzah! It's extremely difficult to put it to words. Yep. The whole city. Well, the whole city, the whole weekend. We stayed for 3 nights, and it was just absolutely incredible. So
that's awesome. I've got friends who live in Nashville, and one of them actually is yeah. Well, one of them actually I worked with at the restaurant, and now she's like doing music there. Like she's actually got a
nice.
music career down in Nashville. Yeah.
Did this bartender
she's huge yet, but like she's got it going on, right? Like she's booking gigs as like what seems like her primary form of income at this point. So that's just from Facebook, like observing, right? Like lurking, I guess would it be? And it's not stalking. I'm not like, hey, let's see what my friend's up to.
But you see this on their feed, right?
But right. Like, I'm like, comes up on my feed. I'm like, oh, look at her. She played a show with blah 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 such and such. So that's cool.
That's awesome, dude. These bartenders, like, because it's so loud. There's loud music, and there's so many people packed up against the bar. There's a long line all the time. I watched this girl like grab 6 Bud Lights out of the fridge with one arm, and her other arm has a bottle opener, and it's just like rapid fire, slam it in a bucket, ice out the door. And at the same time, she took like 3 orders, grabbed 6 credit cards, tap it, like unbelievable. I could just sit and watch the bartenders work all day because it's just like next level multitasking and understanding. And they're like lip reading orders, and somehow it's fine. Like no one's getting the wrong drink. I don't even understand, dude. It's nuts. I got a few pictures. I've shown them to you sometime, but man, such a good time. One of the best times of my life. Like it's just up there. It's way up there. So
nice,
Nashville,
awesome.
Tennessee,
wow.
baby.
Oh man, I'll have to think about that. Cool. All right. Well, I just realized that we don't typically do DLC for this, so we are going to be skipping that this week. Apologies for DLC lovers, but this whole episode is kind of like a DLC. Really not quite in the same way that April Fool's is, but it's, a conversation you wouldn't necessarily normally have. You wouldn't necessarily get on with your buddies on the Wikipedia list and start going through it. So we're just going to skip ahead to that. So meow, 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 meow. So Wikipedia's best video game list of all time. If you want to and can and are not driving or doing something else that requires your full attention, if you're doing something that requires your full attention, just listen later, right? Like, there's no need to put yourself in danger like that. But if you are just sitting there doing nothing, listen to our show while working or something, you can pull up this list on Wikipedia and follow along. It is the best video games list. List of video games considered the best, what the article is officially called. Termite, do you want to explain why we have been going through this list in particular? What is it about this list that is more than just some a-hole's opinion on the internet?
This is Wikipedia. This actual page is an aggregate from years of various collection of rankings of video games and kind of compiled together. So it's very, very curated. It has all of the heavier weighted critiques behind it, as well as like all of the other. It's a huge flavor, consisted of 34 different publications. People like Edge, if you remember that, Entertainment Weekly, even, which is like a non-video, like Game Informer, GameSpot. I'm just picking IGN, of course. They're like the big one. Even Time Magazine has some contributions to this. Polygon and various others. Like I said, there's 34 lists.
They're all like published, right? Like they're all published publications.
Yeah, it's true. They're G4 even. Yeah,
right. They don't just like Google, right? Like, and then again, some bloggers. So like, it's not necessarily. There's definitely going to be certain skews, of course, but I do think it's a pretty solid like. I mean, those publications are popular for a reason. It means that popular means people read them, and usually because they somewhat agree with them, right? They wouldn't still be in business if people weren't reading them. So it's a pretty decent possible way of, coming to this, aggregating this list. And so I think we like it. So for any entry to be on this list, it means it has to have shown up on 6 of these at least. So the fact that there are even 6 publications out there that put some of this later stuff that we haven't gotten to yet on the list is pretty impressive for those titles that just recently came out. So, in fact, there's a new one on the list. Did you see that since we started?
No. Which one's that?
A brand new one. I'm not going to spoil it because we might talk about it next
time.
What
year is it?
It's 2017.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, because there was only one. There was only one at the bottom of the list when we started.
Yeah, nice.
And now there's a new one. So that's
sweet.
Fun. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, so we think it's pretty good to at least give us a high level. Again, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to have all your favorites on there. It's not going to have all of our favorites on there. We're going to blast through some of the ones we don't really care about, but we're going to talk about each one, why we think it should be on the list, whether we think it should not be on the list, or probably not. Usually we just say, like, I didn't play it, don't know about it, but I'm sure people love it. So we can't take that for granted. But yep, we're going to kind of break down each one. Then we might, if we have time, finish off with some trends. But we got a lot to cover still in this series.
Yep.
We probably will only get through 2 years because both of these years also have huge lists, just like the last few. And then as we get further in the 2010s, we have much smaller lists.
So. Ooh, I already see a trend just in this year.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk about it then. So we last left off with Street Fighter 4 and Valkyria Chronicles. That was a long time ago, so I just wanted to catch people up on that. That was in 2008. So now we are in 2009, and we are talking about the first one on this list is a fascinating one. I would not have expected to show up on this list, but we actually, ladies and gentlemen, in 2009 had our first game come out that has now made it to this list. That was a mobile game, and that is Angry Birds, published by Rodeo Entertainment.
Yep. That was one of the trends I was going to talk about. Yeah, this is Angry Birds is kind of the biggest title that was free to play with some sort of like mechanic that required you to pay a small amount of money, which I would say is like the grandfather of microtransactions. Not really the grandfather, maybe the parent.
No, microtransactions were here. It's more like it was the grandfather of like gated microtransactions where they actually gated the gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like you only could play Angry Birds specifically. It was you could only play so many levels, and it would time gate you. And it was like the countdown timer would happen. And then in order to play again, you have to spend some money. And there's some in-game currency.
Yep.
Yeah. And so like you could order a bunch of
Curse
gems.
you, Angry Birds, for doing that. But it was a fun game, not going to lie.
It was
like
really
I played
good.
Angry Birds. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Angry Birds 2.
But I don't feel like I ever ran into that mechanic. So it must have been fairly forgiving in the amount of games you could play.
It was.
Unlike
it was really
other...
early. They probably patched it out and changed it.
For sure. Oh, yeah, it's probably awful now. I bet you the game is just completely riddled. If it's still around, it's still probably riddled with the worst of the worst. But, like, it was no, like, was it Farmville or Candy Crush that would really took it to the next level where it would, like...
Yes, there's
really
and so did, what was the stupid build your own base camp and, like, fight others and raid? It was kind of like an RTS, but it was...
Raid
I don't remember.
No.
I'll know when I hear it, but it doesn't matter. It's,
Sure.
This is the beginning of it all. Yep.
All right, and a fairly big contrast to that game, we'd have Assassin's Creed 2. Definitely, as far as I have ever experienced Assassin's Creed, I haven't played this game in particular, but everybody talks about Assassin's Creed 2 as being the peak of Assassin's Creed. I don't even think the first one showed up on the list. So yeah, I feel like
it didn't.
This game probably took Assassin's Creed into the like nonstop. They come out with one every year.
Yep.
Like juggernaut that it is now. So because this one was so popular. So but this was still a whole different very different game than what the games are now. It was still very linear and focused on like stealth action combat than it was now. This open world, like, you know, check your checklist, assassination, all these people on the map, and here's a bunch of markers that take you right to them. That it is now.
At the time, during this time, like Assassin's Creed was really well known for like incorporating realistic historical events and like recreating cities in the time period that it's set in, like set pieces, and it was really well done, and they cared about that. And then,
well,
like
and
you
at
said,
the same time, simultaneous to that, though, they still had the weird like nexus or whatever they call it, the thing where you're the artifact. Like the whole story was you're like a dude control. You're not actually the people in history,
right? Yeah, you're like
their
in a machine
descendant who is like genetically related to them. That is like living the past of his ancestors in virtual reality. I forget what it's called, but So it's like it had this weird overarching plot that like half the Assassin's Creed community are like, oh, thank God they like don't do that anymore, and the other half are like, what happened with that? Like,
right.
So, anyways,
it's the beginning of the franchise. Like Ubisoft's known now for either games as a service game like The Division and Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, or it's known for its open world formulaic open world map with a bunch of side quests and question marks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed now. So like that's Ubisoft now, but at the time this game came out, it wasn't. And this was actually beloved and wonderful and historically accurate set piece that was awesome. So go check that out if you haven't. I know I'm dying to play it one day.
Yep. All right, next on the list, Batman Arkham Asylum. I didn't get through this game, but
You never finished it?
I didn't finish it, but it keeps bugging me. I want to go back to it because I feel like I can't. I want to go further into the franchise and feel like I can't because I'm still like haven't brought myself to go back. But like this is one of the first Steam games I bought, and like
really,
like there was a point in time where my Steam game list consisted of Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City, and then as I started to grow my list, I got more distracted. It eventually pulled me away from the games, but I loved it. So like at first, and I just I always want to go back. I might need to get like a collection of them on PlayStation now that I'm.
They have the remaster,
console.
the Batman Arkham Origins or something. I don't Return to Arkham
really?
Is what it's called. Yeah, and it's a set of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City together, and it's always on sale. It's always cheap. Probably on sale right now. Go check it out. Yeah, and they're remastered and upscaled and better graphics, frame rate, and all that stuff. But yeah, Arkham Asylum was. So
really...
good, and so it stood out. Like third-person combat wasn't really being pursued super heavily during this time frame. Lots of first-person shooters, and then games like I know Gears of War is like a third-person over the shoulder, but it played like a first-person shooter. And then there was like Grand Theft Auto and Fallout was a first-person shooter. So like, all those big, huge title franchises, like nothing was doing fist hand-to-hand combat in a third-person. Also, like with exploration and depth to the environmental storytelling, the way Batman Arkham Asylum did. This game just like took Batman and that world. They brought Mark Hamill in to voice Joker again, and it was absolutely incredible. That it was kind of scary, a little bit dark and like gritty. It was real. It wasn't like built for kids, and it wasn't cartoony. And it used the Unreal Engine, and it was gorgeous. Like it looked and played wonderfully. The combo system was next. Like Spider-Man, actually, for PS4, for as good as it was, harkens back to this. Rocksteady is the developer, and like chaining together groups of enemies versus Batman and being able to like combo between the fights and like block enemy incoming attacks from all different directions. Like there was such a good nuance to the combat system here that had never been done before. Totally deserves to be on this list, and absolutely one of my favorite games from 2009. Even if it wasn't on this list, I would be like, dude, go back and get this game on the list, because
it's the first superhero, like recognizable superhero game on this list. I just scrolled through real quick and I couldn't find anything else. So like,
smart.
As far as like, good superhero games like Batman Arkham Asylum made it to this list. It wasn't the first good one, right? Like there were other good ones that preceded it, but it was so well regarded that it made it to this list. It's the first one that showed up on this list. So and started a trend of pretty good, there's gonna be more that show up on this list. Put it that way.
I actually like there was peak Xbox 360 generation. The peak of that to me was this game.
Nice.
Just like the whole like
we can't we've waxed eloquent. Let's move on.
Yep.
Bayonetta,
which I've never played, and you did.
So good. It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an honest. I'm actually very surprised it made it on this list. It's a great successor to Devil May Cry, right? It's Hideki Kamiya, who made Devil May Cry, but he moved on to, he was ousted, I guess, from Capcom, or he left Capcom and founded Platinum Games. And the kinds of games that Platinum make are like Devil May Cry, right? Like they all have very similar mechanics, hack and slash, combos, chaining together cool attacks with different weapons. And that is Bayonetta. And Bayonetta really carries on much of the same. I mean, it really is much of in very many ways, it's a spiritual successor to Devil May Cry, in the sense that it's like a mirror opposite, right? Like, Dante, they're both like demonic in origin, I guess, because she's a witch, but like, male, female, kills demons, kills angels, listens to hard punk, death, butt metal, listens to Fly Me, fight when you're fighting things, it's playing Fly Me to the Moon. All right. It's like complete opposite, almost jazzy, poppy, fun, over the top, great freaking game. I personally like Bayonetta 2 a little bit better. But Bayonetta 1 is a classic, and you should grab it because it's the only one that's on everything, because Nintendo had not snatched it up at that point. So you can get Bayonetta on PS4 and get your trophies for it. So
cool. Or PS3.
All right, or PS3.
And both. Yeah.
So all right, awesome. I think it deserves to be on the list, but I'm also genuinely surprised it's on the list. So I really have high hopes for the third one, because they've got a legacy to live up to. So
me too.
Next on this list, another one I can speak to almost exclusively, Demon's Souls, the first Souls game to show up on this list. Again, I genuinely surprised. Dark Souls, I would not be surprised to show up on the list. Revolutionary. Demon's Souls was the like redheaded stepchild. It had a cult following, and I think that as Dark Souls grew in popularity and into Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Elden Ring, like, right, there's a bigger following for Souls games now than there was in 2009. So maybe it's sort of in retrospect, considering these articles that have it on the list were written in retrospect. That makes sense. But this game was such a, not loved. It did not have a mainstream following at the time it came out.
It did get an 89 on Metacritic.
It did, right? And it's because it reviewed very well with journalists, but people hated it. Sony's president ended their partnership with From Software at the time because he hated this game. Like he was renowned for like playing this game and being like, we made this is awful, I hate it. Like, whew. And it was coming out, right on the heels, like, Skyrim was just around the corner, or did Skyrim had just come out, or is it coming out I don't even remember, but like it was just not like, it wasn't loved. So it's kind of surprising on this list. But I mean, again, it was the game that would template the game that would blow up the industry and has caused many conversations for us over the last year. So if not, if you don't love it, if you hate it, that's fine, but it definitely deserves to be on the list for, at the very least, just kind of doing something different at the time. So,
Yep,
I mean, standing in stark contrast to Bayonetta too, right? Like you got Bayonetta, which I just described, this fun poppy, like flashy in your face, frenetic combos. And then Demon Souls, which is this plodding, miserable slog through hellish world with a silent and solemn protagonist just trying to survive in a hellscape. It was breaking the mold for action games. So
there you go.
Speaking of breaking the mold for action games, Dragon Age. Hit. Heavy hitter. Like 4 in a row. 5.
Yep.
Assassin's
2009
Creed.
was great. So, like I said,
you play Dragon Age?
I did not.
I played 5 minutes of Dragon Age. Actually, you know what? I think I have like 30 minutes logged in Steam because I went back to look and see how much time I actually played in it.
Yeah.
It didn't hook me. I don't think I knew what BioWare was about at that point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Like now that I've played Mass Effect, I think I would appreciate Dragon Age more.
You never played Knights of the Old Republic?
I didn't. Nope.
Yeah, that was what BioWare was for me. So Dragon Age was very appealing. I don't know why I never got into it.
It was a lot, right? Like, is Skyrim on this list? Because I don't see Skyrim on this
2011.
list. Oh, okay. 2 years down the road. Okay, yeah. So it kind of... I'm trying to think why. I feel like I was attracted to Dragon Age at the time. Like, it came out, I saw it. But I don't recall... I guess I was playing World of Warcraft. So maybe I was just like, this is just like...
Yep, your head was in the sand.
World of Warcraft. I guess so, yeah. My head must have been in the sand for that one. So, yeah. Okay.
To me, like, this game looks and feels like it's the third-person equivalent to a Baldur's Gate type of like deep RPG with deep fantasy and like really leans into that type of thing, which is super appealing to me. And I remember like seeing it played by a friend of ours at his house, and I was like, this is just a lot right now. And I was playing other things at the time, and I was like, I gotta circle back around. And I actually have on my shelf Dragon Age Origins, Awakening, and Dragon Age 2 on PS3, none of which I have played yet, but I intend to. So eventually I'll circle back around and play it. I know I also have Dragon Age Inquisition, which was Game of the Year for PS4. And
that's one I've been meaning to circle back around. It's always on sale for super cheap. I wonder if it would feel dated. But they made it. That was the first one they made with Frostbite. It's remarkable how they made that game with Frostbite. And I was just recently reading about how many.
Oh my gosh, it's fascinating.
How much went into that?
Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. Written by Jason Schreier, has a whole chapter just dedicated to Dragon Age.
How did they
Inquisition.
nail that and then fail Anthem? I mean, but that game won Game of the Year. Like, how did they nail that and then fail Anthem? I have no idea.
It came so many times, so close to not ever happening. Frostbite was not meant for this type of game at all. And now we're talking about a game that's even later in our.
I know. Is it even on the list? I have no idea. It probably should be. But Dragon Age, I mean, I'm looking at the Origins, and man, this game had a range of scores. Like, if you look at the 360 version, it's 86, which I would say is middling. But then the PC version, it's fun to think how 5 points could make such a difference. Like, PC's 91. I'm like, man, crazy difference there. So, in my estimation, so just fascinating. Dragon Age.
This was the beginning of the console to PC ports being the same, like in this generation. So you're getting the same game. What the difference in the score would be, I would imagine, is just the technical performance, the graphics.
Oh yeah, 2009 is getting near the end of the Xbox 360's capabilities compared to PC. Right. This is when they had the delay because of the 2008 recession, and so like the new hardware was pushed. Yeah, and so PC started to shine for a lot of these games at this time. So fascinating. All right, speaking of PC games shining, League of Legends. Again, this is another love it or hate it. This is kind of a hate it for me. I did not get into it. I tried. I gave it my honest effort. I even tried to get into the lore of it just to get excited about it and just could not get into this game.
Same.
That said, Arcane's incredible. So if you are a fan of good storytelling with good animation that takes place in an existing universe, but you don't have to know anything about that existing universe to enjoy it, you should check out Arcane. But the game it's based off of drives me up the wall. So, League of Legends.
It's a MOBA.
Fan.
The first MOBA on the list. MOBA being a new genre at the time, introduced here, kind of. So, I mean, around this time, if League of Legends didn't bring the genre to popular, Dota did, right? Dota was a mod of World of Warcraft.
Dota started this. Dota started it. League of Legends blew it up, right? Like, you got to give credit where credit's due. League of Legends put MOBAs on the map to the point where it is still like the most played I think it makes the most money. It's like the highest game by earnings, or maybe it's highest game by player count. I don't know. Worldwide, it still trounces everything. And in Europe in particular, they effing love League of Legends over in Europe and in China. Like, it's it's still to this day a massive success. It's not slowed down. Almost more than 10 years
it's
later.
in one of the most popular esports events happening all the time.
Yep.
League of Legends.
Yep.
Who would have thought?
Yep. League of Legends. It's basically
2009.
plays like Warcraft 3. So people are still just pointing and clicking and mapping skills to their hotkeys, and that is still the primary. I mean, like the difference between a MOBA and a RTS is just scope. Like you're playing one character as opposed to controlling millions, but the actual mode of gameplay. So it's like to think that became like the most popular esport format still to this day kind of boggles me. But yep, it's all thanks to LOL. So definitely deserves to be on the list, whether you love it or hate it. So
LOL or skates.
Left 4 Dead 2.
Yes.
The like better version of an already great game. We talked about this one in we did it on the Turtle Rock. Rock. We talked about it in Turtle Rock.
Last time we did this show on this topic, 2008, one of the games on the list was Left 4 Dead 1. Now we're in 2009.
They just knocked him out one after another, didn't they? Like, boom,
same engine.
boom.
It was the source engine. They didn't. All I had to do is the assets were all there. Yeah, Left 4 Dead 2 was everything we loved about Left 4 Dead 1, but better. Like better levels, better organization, like better optimization to everything, more character diversity, more weapon diversity, like or variability, if you will, and. Yeah, like I was obsessed. I have so many hours in Left 4 Dead 2, so many LAN parties with Left 4 Dead 2, and so many late nights staying up when I should have been doing college work playing Left 4 Dead 2. It was just absolutely incredible. It's a co-op game, first-person shooter, where you just go from point A to point B, going through a horde of zombies, and there's always environmental events that happen that create hordes that ambush you, but then there's like special enemies that have different abilities that you have to work together as a team and strategize to get through, or you won't. And so ratcheting up the difficulty was always appealing because it was like, how good are you? If you were a really good co-op team, the easier difficulties would be too easy. So you wanted to try and balance a good experience and like think and freak out, but also have fun. So what a great game. Like, I would love Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 to be remastered and re-released on modern consoles because I just want to play through those games again.
Yeah, don't have much to add here, but like people always talk about Left 4 Dead 2. It is a franchise I missed out on and regret missing out on and would have loved everything about it had I not had my head in the World of Warcraft sand at the time. This next one I have played though, and I love it, and it is amazing. And is its predecessor on the list? I don't know. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves.
Yes.
Whoo! Yep, I think I see the trend that you're probably going to mention, by the way. But yes, Uncharted 2, this one, oh man, I personally like Uncharted 3 just a little bit better, but Uncharted 2 really does, like, they improved pretty much everything that I hated about Uncharted 1, like the clunkiness and the
Uncharted 1 was
like,
rough. Uncharted 1 was very, it was
good, but rough. Yeah, no, the mechanics were hard. Even in the remaster, the mechanics were hard to, like, get right. And the story was good, but also devolved into the absurd a little bit.
Yeah.
Quickly. Whereas Uncharted 2 was like, hey, train wreck, super compelling villain, action, explosions. Like,
it was a cinematic set piece, and it told a story like more. It was like, so the first game came out and it was like a summer blockbuster. It was kind of shallow story. It was rough around the edges, hard to control, hard to shoot. Platforming was kind of rough, a little like you would die a lot by stupid things that really wasn't the player's fault. So Uncharted 2 like shored up all of the problems with the mechanics of climbing and platforming and shooting and made all of those like on par with a modern third-person shooter, made it feel good. But then it just took what it started with, this idea of a summer blockbuster or cinematic set piece. It just blew it up, like expanded upon it. Excellent cinematics, excellent musical score, amazing graphics, pushing the limits to PlayStation 3 to we've never seen before. So everything was awesome. Like,
there are only two games that I've ever wanted, or franchise, I should say, that have ever made me want to get a external drive for my PlayStation, and it would not be to fill it up with games. It would be to fill it up with like I wish I would just had enough storage space to record my video more, because I would totally make a YouTube video that was just montages of my deaths.
Oh, it'd be hilarious.
And Uncharted 2. Because especially because it's like
it like goes black and white and like ragdoll, and you just
so many deaths. The other one, of course, being anything in the Souls franchise, the hilarious like death montages.
So many. Yeah, here's a dragon that lands on you in Elden Ring and you're out. Go check that out. It's actually on our YouTube. That's there.
Nice.
Uncharted
Awesome.
2, though, like I was playing that today. I was testing I upgraded to PS Now in anticipation for the new PlayStation Plus subscription model. There's like PS Now 12-month subscriptions out there for 60 and it's going to be 120. So getting it now is half price for the new tier. So I jumped on it. So I now have a year of PS Now. And I was like, what's a game that I really like that I can test the streaming infrastructure of my internet and see what this is going to be? And I started Uncharted 2 and I did that introduction train sequence and realized like they messed with the timeline. It's not linear. It starts at the end, like the end, towards the end of the game, but there's flashbacks to the story happening before the beginning of the game, and then you end up in like where you should be. And I played that whole intro again, and I was just like, "This is so good. It aged so well." Yes, the graphics aren't like what we see today in Unreal 5 or whatever ray tracing, but man, Uncharted 2, legendary game. It's my favorite in the series of all the Uncharted games. Uncharted 2 is
very good. It's a very close second for me. All
Yeah.
right. Moving along, only because we probably will only get through 2010, but I have ambitions to go all the way through 2011. But all the games I want to talk about in 2011 are going to, like all the games in 2011 are going to take too long to talk about. But we'll see. If we can get through 2010 efficiently and quickly, then we can get through 2010. Heavy Rain. I can't really talk to this one. I've heard
You
it'll
never
make
played
you
Heavy
cry.
Rain?
No, I have it on my list. It's on
so
it's on my long list, but it's in my
PlayStation Plus
thing.
library.
Yeah, that's it.
Should be. Yeah.
Because I snagged it at one point.
Yeah.
Anyway,
not a
I've
very
heard it'll
long
make
game.
you cry though, and
it will. It will.
I don't
Yeah.
want to do that,
Especially as a parent.
Good for
like
it. Good for it. 2010. I would not have conceived of a game in 2010 that would like have that kind of emotional reaction. Yeah. But like, good for them. Good for
it was Quantic Dream. They had made
Quantic Dream, that's what it was.
Quantic Dream is the developer. Heavy Rain
Detroit,
was their second.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they've made now Detroit Become Human, and they've done Beyond Two Souls. I think Heavy Rain was their first one. But again, a Sony exclusive, and it pushed the bounds of the PlayStation graphics to the next level. So it's ridiculously cinematic. It's pretty much all just dialogue and quick action sequences. So it's like hit the buttons at the right spot, and then if you mess up, you can actually change the course. Many branching stories throughout many endings, requires many playthroughs to like get the platinum, but it's doable. I don't have the platinum, but legendary game. Just again pushing the bounds for what could be done with video games in the sense of a cinematic storytelling experience. So it's that kind of game. Yeah, awesome game. I highly recommend it. What's next?
Yep.
Limbo.
Don't know it.
You don't know Limbo? Oh man, I never played Limbo either, but I know it by name because at this time the 360 had what was called the Xbox Live Arcade, and in it was a bunch of featured indie titles. And the indie movement was just getting started here in 2009, 10, 2008, 2011, and it was just bubbling up, and like games were becoming really good coming out of the indie market. Indies independent, they don't have a publisher, they don't have a lot of funds. It's usually a small studio, sometimes one person. But Limbo was a very small studio that made a game, and Microsoft highlighted it on their Xbox Live Arcade and put, I guess it's on this list because it sort of pushed the indie movement and put it on the map. At the time this game had come out, I was still very meh on indie games in general. Like other games like Super Meat Boy and Braid were coming out and stuff. And I'm just not interested. They're not the big experiences that I'm expecting, especially having played like Left 4 Dead 2, Uncharted 2, Heavy Rain, Batman. So that's what Limbo is to me. I know it's a side-scrolling platforming game, supposedly really well done. It's now been ported like everywhere. So go check it out if you haven't yet. I know I haven't, but it's on my list of games to jump into whenever I feel like I want to try something different, because I'm way more open-minded about indie games now. But Limbo started it. Nice. There you go.
Mass Effect 2. The last time we did this episode, like this series, I had not yet played the Mass Effect trilogy. I have played them. So I can speak to both Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Incredible games. If you can get past the Citadel and Mass Effect 1, the game takes off so much better. I mean,
I think that's where I never did.
I never did either. My first playthroughs, because you do admittedly spend an absurd amount of time in the Citadel in Mass Effect 1. But once you start planet hopping and actually doing stuff and chasing down Saren, like it actually gets really fun. And Mass Effect 2 just takes it to the next level. And unlike Mass Effect 1, where you have a very slow start, Mass Effect
slow.
2 just like they pull out all the stops. Like cinematic like everything you're talking about with like Uncharted, like they clearly were paying attention because well, I guess they wouldn't have because they came out in the same year, but like they were paying attention at least to the trends in video games at the time. Like they definitely made it like gripping from the get-go. Like things happen, stuff goes down, and you're just the player's like, oh man, it's about to get real.
Yep.
And it's just so good. And they take the story in a different, more, in my opinion, interesting direction than in one. And I kind of like the crew a little bit better, all things considered. On the whole, like your companions, they do switch it up. They give you some repeats, which are awesome. The repeat characters were the ones that I like lean to because I like the crew in Mass Effect 1. I don't think for me, they still haven't topped the crew in Mass Effect 1.
Huh.
Like I loved every one but one. There was like one character I was like, on Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 2, there were a lot more characters that was met on. But overall, though, the story was fantastic and awesome and compelling. Not a terribly difficult platinum either. So yeah, I have misgivings about Mass Effect 3. Yeah, I have misgivings about 3 so far for myself, but I'm about to fire it up now that I'm done with Wonderlands. It's my next.
Well, 3 is not on this list.
Hopefully I get into
period.
It's not exactly. Yeah. So that says anything, if that gives you any indication. But cool. All right. Anything you want to say about Mass Effect 2?
Or do you want to talk about Red Dead Redemption? Right? I do want to talk about Red Dead Redemption, but last thing about Mass Effect 2, it's BioWare again, right? They just had Dragon Age Origins last year in 2009. Here they are again with 2010.
This is their golden age. This was the golden age of BioWare. Like, this is before their fall from grace.
Yeah. And they had Mass Effect 1 on this list in 2007. So BioWare continues to just hit after hit. Yeah. And they're on the map. And that's that style of like party RPG. It's great. So yeah, Red Dead Redemption. Who doesn't know Rockstar Games is Red Dead Redemption, right? That's extraordinarily popular.
From
kind
the
of a
makers of Steely Wheelie Automobile comes Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Shootin'.
That's it. Right there. Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Big, giant open world games set in the West, American West. When they were
Grand Theft Auto with horses, right?
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Cowboys. But it's so good. I mean, I haven't
ridiculous.
played one, but
I actually
played 2, and if it's anything like it, it's so good.
I went back and finished this again after finishing Red Dead Redemption 2 because Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel. So one of the spin-off characters, one of the side characters in Red Dead 2 is the main character in Red Dead 1. So I wanted to see what that legacy was because everything in Red Dead 1 was all about who you were with in Red Dead 2. And so it was really cool to play it in reverse order. And I played it again the second time on PS3. So I've played through a massive open world Rockstar game twice. Once on 360 when it first came out, it was that good. I went back and revisited it on PS3 and just mainlined it. I didn't do the side quests or side stuff.
Yeah.
That would have taken too long.
I've felt drawn to go back and play Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, oh my gosh, it's so much. Like, it's too big. It's huge. I'd have to just mainline the story hard, which is something I already don't like doing in those games. I like getting distracted and wandering.
That's the point of the game. It's like
it's the whole point, right? So, but I mean, I feel like I sunk. I don't know if I did for sure, but I feel like I sunk at least 80 hours into Red Dead 2 and didn't platinum it. Game we're close to platinuming it, right? Yeah. Like to go platinum it, I have to sink another 100 hours or so. It's like nope, just no. But also yes, because it's so good. So it'd be a tough one.
It is. But yeah, Red Dead Redemption 1, fantastic. Voice acting, great story. Again, it's big open world exploration. That's kind of what set this apart. You know, we talked about like big story set pieces, cinematic set pieces. Uncharted 2, super linear. It's just on rails. Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain also on rails, but that rail like splits to 16 different branches. You can get all kind of different endings. Mass Effect 2 is big, sprawling open world with dialogue choices, multiple endings. But Red Dead is kind of what we consider open world now, where it's like you can get lost in hunting and fishing, you can get lost in side
it's closer to the Grand Theft Auto sandbox nature, right? It was still kind of what open world was at the time. Yep. But we're inching closer and closer towards Skyrim, which would revolutionize the open world, and make it closer to what it is now. There would of course be another, as we talked about many times. There would be another Yoda quote there, right? There's another.
Yes.
Yeah, Skyrim would be if Skyrim was the Luke Skywalker, Red Dead Redemption was the Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Zelda Breath of the Wild would be the Link of the Leia. Leia, Leia. I guess.
Sure.
We'll get into that. Obviously, we'll jump into that and when we get there. Next on the list though is Rock Band 3. This is like every Rock Band's been on there, hasn't it? Like I feel like 1, 2, and 3 have all been on here.
2007 Rock Band, 2008 Rock Band 2, and now 2000. What year
why
we
are
on?
those games not
10.
made anymore? Did they just find that people weren't buying the hardware, the
It
controllers?
was so much,
Like,
yeah. And they tried to bring it back. There is a Rock Band 4 that completely flopped. It was like, we're ready, PS4, Xbox One, let's do this. And there was a whole new print
it's like,
of
as the
classic
gaming
instruments.
community, it's like, oh, we think fondly of these games enough to put them on this list, but also, thank God we don't have to do these games anymore because people just stop buying them. We're like, nope, it's done. This whole age of Rock Band is over, but Rock Band 3 would be the last one to kind of squeak out.
Yeah,
a
it
win
really
on
was
that.
like Rock Band 3 was everything good about Rock Band 1 and 2 combined. They had massive DLC support. It was an insane drop every week of new songs. I don't even know how much money it would cost to have bought every single song in Rock Band 3, but all the DLC you had bought in Rock Band 2 carried over to 3, and they added the keyboard, which is like a little guitar thing you could play, and so they added more stuff. But yeah, these big giant plastic instruments that take up so much space, they broke easily, and so there was tons of returns and tons of complaints and like customer service problems. And if you go to any used game store, there's like a garage full of just plastic instruments that like just take up so much space, and nobody wants to keep it in their house anymore because it kind of gets old and no one's using it and people move on from the system. So it just died and no one wanted to rebuy those things. But man, what a time to be alive. With We had Rock Band parties. I may have talked about this with Rock Band 2, but there was a friend of the show. His name is BJ. He would host us all. He'd have a smoke machine, lasers, a projector, surround sound with his Xbox 360 hooked up. He bought the Ion drum set, cost like $300 with all the guitars that came with the game. He has extra guitar. And we just had Rock Band nights. And we would just drink wine and beers and just play Rock Band for hours. This is life before kids. It was wonderful. Yeah.
StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty is next on the list.
They brought
This
it
is
back.
actually one that I don't feel like should be on here. And the reason
Really?
why is because it though, again, I'm not a big StarCraft player, so I don't know for sure. So clearly a lot of StarCraft players must still love it. But here's the thing about StarCraft 2 that I think that its legacy, unfortunately, is like not there and has nothing to do with Blizzard's recent news. StarCraft 2 came out in the era of the MOBAs, clearly, obviously, right? League of Legends just a year before. And I think that though it's still going, like it's still got players in the thousands, it's not like, I feel like RTSs like this, RTSs and first-person shooters kind of live and die, not so much on their legacy. Well, either on their legacy or on their popularity as a sort of like a competitive game, tournaments and all that stuff. And I just feel like people are still doing StarCraft 1 tournaments over StarCraft 2 tournaments.
Yeah.
And I don't see, I don't know. I feel like this would have been the last kind of death knell on the RTS kind of major esports.
I just looked forward on this list, and there's no more real-time strategy games after this.
Yeah. So but I don't see anything about StarCraft 2 in particular that made it like, oh, it really did, like, it felt like a last hurrah. And I think people always complained about it being like extremely unbalanced and constantly like, Blizzard after, the World of Warcraft era and Diablo, just like constantly tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it. And people were like, just let it settle into a meta, right? Like they could never settle into a meta because it was in the era of like live service games, right? The dawn of this, right? And so I don't know. I always felt like people always complained about StarCraft 2, but hey, it's on the list, so I don't know. This is the only one that I'm sitting there being like, really? StarCraft 2? Okay, I guess.
It makes sense. Like all of Blizzard's real-time strategy games, I feel like StarCraft 2 is probably like you said, wrap it all up, sum it up, tie a bow on it. This is what Blizzard's capable of. This has the best about all of what Blizzard has done from StarCraft
It's true.
1.
It didn't come out as a buggy mess like Warcraft 3 Reforged did.
It's super polished. Great graphics, cool story, I guess. I loved the story when I played through it. I was a big fan of StarCraft 2. We had some LAN parties, played it online a lot.
See, that's what bothered me, though, is they released the campaigns in chunks. I think that's what I hated about it.
Yep.
It was like, oh, you have to buy, if the game comes out with
sets.
the Terran one, and then you had to buy each of the other races campaigns separately.
That was kind of dumb.
Stupid Blizzard.
Yeah, but the core game itself was awesome. You're right about like the min-max, the meta game, the people who are really into it. Like they're the ones that are gonna have a problem with it, and you can tell the audience fell off. But for like mass appeal, when it first came out, we went to like a midnight release at a bar. It was the Green Turtle over in the Spotsylvania Town Center, and they had huge GameStop put it on, but they filled the bar up with gamers. And like at midnight, they brought the game out, and like we all got it that night, and it was a huge deal when it came out. And so It was really, really well reviewed. Like you said, no bugs, no mess. At launch, the game was awesome, and it did really well. So I have really fond memories of StarCraft 2. But right, the player base just fell off, and like it became an online war of balancing issues and all that stuff. So yeah.
All right, Super Mario Galaxy 2. I know you have a lot to say about this one. Was Galaxy
Mario
1
Galaxy
on this
2.
list?
It should have been.
Galaxy is fun. Galaxy is I've played it. I've played Galaxy 1 like an hour or two with my son in the Switch, the All-Stars. But Galaxy 2, I feel like people complained that Galaxy 2 was not in the All-Stars list because Galaxy 2 is loved that much more. So
Galaxy 2 is definitely the best single video game on the Wii. It's also the reason to buy a Wii. If you don't have a Wii right now and you have any interest in because Super Mario Galaxy 2 has never been ported anywhere else, you can't play it anywhere else except on a Wii. Go buy a Wii or a Wii U, I guess. You could because of the backwards compatibility. But
sure.
Go find a Wii or a Wii U and go play Mario Galaxy 2. It is probably top 3 best Mario games ever. It's absolutely incredible. Like the level design, the platforming is next level. It was like that 3D Mario exploration, like which Odyssey kind of took on the reins of. Odyssey didn't do it as well as Mario Galaxy 2. Like it's absolutely incredible. And at the time, the Wii, super underpowered hardware, no HDMI, no 1080p. It's 2010. We're talking Uncharted 2, Heavy Rain, Mass Effect 2, Red Dead Redemption. These games were pushing graphics. StarCraft 2, even on the PC side, like the minute detail of all the units and how much they could put on the screen at once. If you had a good PC, they could do it. Like Mario Galaxy 2 on a Wii, which is basically like an overclocked GameCube, was it looked and the animations were flawless. The colors popped, like everything just fit. The music was bopping. I still listen to music to this day. Like love Mario Galaxy 2. And funnily enough, I never actually beat it. And I stayed up super, super late last minute to beat the first one before the second one came out. And I think I lost my interest in Mario Galaxy 2 because side story, when Smash Bros. Ultimate had come out, we had a LAN party and T-Bone, friend of the show, love you, brother, but he knocked over our Wii and it caused a disk read error across all the games. So the Wii was bricked essentially. We sent it off for repair and got it back and all the games were wiped and Mario Galaxy 2 wiped, gone. So at that point I was like, I'm not going to put 70 more hours into another playthrough, so I never really started.
You never let him live that down, have you? You bring it up every Thanksgiving.
No, I really don't. I don't ever bring it up.
T-Bone, I want to hear your side of the story. I want to hear how like he.
It was a complete accident. He had a GameCube controller, which anyone who knows Smash Bros, you put a wired GameCube controller in, way better and more reliable than Wavebird's. So he just didn't realize the length of the cord. And he got comfortable.
Don't you criticize the Wavebird? I won many a Smash match, not tournament or anything important, but I won many a Smash match with the Wavebirds. The Wavebird is the perfect controller. And is amazing.
I love them. I have like 6 of them. They're amazing. Yeah. But if you're serious about Smash, you get a wire.
If you're serious about Smash, never mind. I'm sorry, T-Bone. I was about to say, if you're serious about Smash, you don't knock over your brother's Wii.
Hey,
just to use a wired controller. No, I'm kidding.
It was the family Wii. It was both of ours. But you want to hear his story?
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, he. Okay. All right. If as long as it wasn't like, all right. Yeah. If it's partially his property or the family's property, then he has every right to destroy it, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm really not mad about it. So I agree with you. Yeah, sure.
Shoot, what was I going to say? You said Smash Bros. Ultimate. I think you probably meant Smash Bros. Brawl, not to be
Brawl.
branded,
You're right.
Just so people don't get confused.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brawl. Okay, so last one. I want to like go hard and go to 2011 right now, but all 6 of those games are just going to be whole episodes to themselves, probably.
They always are. This is hard to do.
We're gonna have to end with Super Meat Boy here. That's fine because it'll be a quick one. Never played it, but it is the first like roguelike on the list, right? Or no, we had Spelunky.
I don't like roguelikes have the procedurally generated levels, and this does not have that. So are you confusing it with something else?
Am I confusing it with something else?
Maybe like The Birth of Isaac or something?
No, I feel like it's.
But looking at the Wikipedia page, it's platformer, but there's nothing in here about rogue.
You're right. Okay. Let's just start over. Super Meat Boy is the last one on the list. It's a platforming game. I thought it was a roguelike, but it's not. So
no, it's just a puzzle platformer, and it's ridiculously hard. It's super difficult. And I mentioned this earlier.
Hard. Okay, hard. Tough
Yeah.
games.
Super tough game. I mentioned this when I was talking about Limbo, about how the indie scene was popping, and both Limbo and this were Xbox 360 exclusive at launch. Again, part of the Xbox Live Arcade, and they put that whole indie movement on the map with Microsoft support, Microsoft funding these studios to come to Xbox and like give new life, breathe new life into smaller game studios. This is just another example of that. Crazy hard levels. I think it's known for like a tiny little ball of meat that you control. That's not Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He actually has legs. Meatwad does not. And you go through like a lot of razor blades, and it's really, really hard. So Super Meat Boy.
Apparently,
cool, Never really played it.
PETA released a parody Flash game called Super Tofu Boy to protest it.
Nice.
And promote veganism.
Yeah.
In response, Team Meat added its own interpretation of Tofu Boy to the PC version of the actual Super Meat Boy on December 2nd.
Wow, that's funny.
Apparently, the game would inspire Cuphead, which is interesting.
Yep.
I hadn't realized that. So maybe that's why I was confusing it with roguelikes is its legacy as one of those games that inspired super hard like indie platformers.
Yeah.
So which, Dead Cells, though it's roguelike, it's also a platformer. So it's probably it shares DNA with some of those indie roguelikes, but you're right, it's not a roguelike itself. Still very, very, I can see why it's got a good legacy, right? It's often kind of talked about that. So
and they did these retro graphic styles on purpose. So this is the first
exactly.
time we're seeing like a reach back to the old 16-bit, 8-bit days, Limbo and Super Meat Boy being in 2010. Like those are because it's easier to develop. You don't have 3D graphics that you have to like do animations, complex animations and detailed texture work. It's like you can make an 8-bit game or a 16-bit game with a plethora of software, a plethora of engines out there, and like make it work and just focus on the mechanics and make it feel good. And so I think that's obviously underpowered graphics. The Xbox 360 can handle it with no issue, and Microsoft was putting out the money for them. So all of that kind of came together and just like, boom, here you go. Good stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it. That is where we're stopping. So once again, only covering 2 years, but literally the last 4 episodes of the series have been just covering 2 years at a time just because of so much stuff that came out. Like, I know people debate about what was the golden age of video gaming, and as much as we do like to crap on the mid 2000s, the aughts and the early 2010s sometimes for their overuse of very gritty, dark,
bland
color
palettes. Yeah,
the amount of stuff coming out and the amount of variety of stuff coming out in that age, there's a good argument to be made that that's the golden age of gaming. That glorious mess of a decade was the golden age of gaming. I'm not definitively saying that, but there's a good argument to be made. We have spent multiple episodes just trying to get through the slog of those, and maybe it's because of our age when we were gaming, when the most kind of influential movements were happening that were targeted towards us. But we're not the only ones, clearly, because again, these years have just had large numbers, numerical amounts of best games of all time. So trends, real quick. Trends. Give me some trends. PlayStation 3 is suddenly coming to prominence. I think that's what you were probably hitting on. Is exactly PlayStation 3. This is what you always talk about when you say that Sony changed their strategy near the end of the PlayStation 3 generation, and that strategy they would carry into the PlayStation 4, and that would arguably be the strategy that made the 4 so successful, and that is focusing on strong, exclusive, cinematic, big budget blockbuster games that are exclusive to that platform. And you see the fruits of that in this year. I mean, just boom, 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 right?
Demon's Souls, Uncharted 2,
Yep.
Heavy Rain are exclusives, but also whatever developers on the third-party side from Ubisoft, Sega, EA are finally starting to port their games in parity to the 360 on the PS3. So I think there was work done on the Sony side to make it easier for developers to put games on the PlayStation because of the cell processor and how complex it was. It's twofold. So the first-party studios were able to start optimizing for the system and do things unable to be done on any other platform, including PC, and that's where you have Uncharted 2 and Heavy Rain. But also, they did all the work to help developers from the third-party platform makers, or from the third-party developers, Ubisoft, EA, Sega, to start putting games on their console a little easier and port their games over there. So now we have games like Red Dead Redemption, which still struggled to perform as well as 360, and the ratings showed that it was probably a better experience on the 360, especially with Xbox Live behind it. But it wasn't like at launch when the PlayStation 3 versions of these games were awful compared to the 360 version. And so now we're starting to see that parity come up to play. We're starting to see an evolution in play. What's not described on this list is that PlayStation really revamped their PlayStation Network, and they came out with the PlayStation Plus subscription. They were giving away free games. They were making it easier for players to play online. It was free, where Xbox Live cost money, or now they all cost money. But at the time, PlayStation was free, so a lot of people gravitated towards it. But anyway, yeah, PlayStation 3 establishing dominance right here. This is the shift. Like 2008, 2009,
I want to
2010.
An anti-trend here is that Angry Birds would be the last mobile game to show up on this list, as well as the first, right? Like
it's the only one. Like the boop.
It's the only one. It's this little tiny blip of like, wow, this game was super popular and made waves and arguably changed the gaming landscape forever. Mobile games are still the number one, like, most
Money
revenue
maker.
generating and played, right? Like more downloaders, more active users. Why? Because mobile games do what AAA gaming still hasn't figured out. Appeals to a broad non-gaming audience.
Yep.
And Angry Birds was the start of that. And again, revolutionized it. That said, they would never reach artistic heights, right? Like Angry Birds was the peak of artistic height in mobile gaming, and that's because it's hampered by these predatory business models. Like, I do want mobile gaming to succeed. I want games coming out on mobile that make me want to be a mobile gamer. They're not there, and they haven't been for the last decade. And it's because, unfortunately, for as great as Angry Birds may have been, it also like created a business model that would ultimately just ruin mobile gaming's chances at any artistic integrity whatsoever. And there may be great artists out there making games on mobile right now, but they're not succeeding because the market favors this BS.
It's the race to the bottom. It's like free to play, microtransaction, and it's like that new Marvel game came out like back in August or September of last year that looked pretty promising, and it's the same old thing again. It's just like a
Diablo
cinematic
Immortal makes me want to play it at the same time. Just no, I don't want to play it. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like
I'm always looking for that next big mobile experience, and these devices are insane. They're thousands of dollars, $1,000 to $1,500, and they have the technology to do cool stuff. Like the games can look better than PlayStation 3 and 360 era things, and like so I'm just waiting for like someone to come out with an actual game, charge $30 for it, and it's amazing, and I don't have to worry about any microtransactions or any subscription service behind any paywalls. Just give me a game. It's $30 to $40 that I can play on my phone. I
feel like the whole
incredible.
Ecosystem is poisoned at this point. Like I wouldn't trust
it. Wouldn't sell,
right?
Like no one would do it. It'd be so risky.
Yep, exactly. It's blah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like I want it, and at the same time, it's just like, but I also just rather play it on my and any other device. Other device. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, that I think is where we'll end. So we want to hear your thoughts on these 2 years of crazy games, insane years, and we want to hear your thoughts on what games you think should have made it to the list or shouldn't have made it to the list. We want to hear you if your thoughts are stop doing this stupid series. We're sick of it. We haven't heard that yet. So if that opinion is out there, you need to share it with us so that we can stop doing it. We can't know to stop doing something if you don't tell us to stop doing it. So that's all very constructive feedback if framed constructively. So as long as you don't like insult us, our families, or our mothers, then we'll probably be cool with you. So engage with us and share your feedback, share your ideas. Termite will let you know where you can do that right now.
You can heckle T-Bone for his side of the story of what happened with the Wii in Super Smash Bros. Brawl over at 80bitpodsmash.com because T-Bone's an active member of our community, and he is a shining example of someone who posts on our Facebook wall, posts in our Discord. He does not tweet. I don't have anyone that does anything on Twitter except for the bigwigs, Gary Whitta, Greg Miller, like Andrea Renee. So you can be like them and interact with folks like I do on Twitter. Find us there, 80bitpodsmash.com, 80bitpodsmash. There are links to all of those social media platforms there, as well as if you're listening to this show by way of like YouTube or Twitch or some other platform and you want to know where you can get our RSS feed or our audio podcast, we're on all the audio podcast platforms. There are links to all of the Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and more, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, etc., over at 80bitpodsmash.com. So go check us out.
All right, next week we are a little late to the game because a game came out this year, a couple months ago, and it got an 84 on Metacritic, and 95% of Google users like this game. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, review embargo came out today.
Really good game. So we're going to talk about Lego games. We're going to talk about Lego is one thing. Video games were another thing from my childhood.
Traveler's
At
Tales.
some point in my history, they kind of combined and started making video games. So we're going to talk about Lego and its history with video games and all of its greatness that is sort of a hidden gem. And we'll talk about that next week. We'll see you then.
Sounds awesome. See you next week.